And we are back. So we have our last presenter, Horatiu Bandoiu. Hello.
Hello.
And
Hello, Ilona.
Horatiu Bandoiu is one of the employees with a large history of working for Bitdefender, acting currently as the channel marketing manager for emerging markets. Horatiu is also a security professional with an experience of more than 20 years in the design, implementation, and integration of complex cybersecurity infrastructures, in strategic cybersecurity planning, and in the implementation and audit of ESMS, according to ISO 27001, for which it is a certified auditor trained by British Standards Institution. His topic today is malware evolution in 2023, the future of the criminal ecosystem and the weaponization of AI. In this briefing, we will find out what are the malware trends Bitdefender foresees for the coming period, with a special attention to the ransomware and the use of AI for criminal purposes. We will discover how the cybercriminal groups adapted to the realities of war and how they are trying to take advantage of the newest technologies to gain advantage over prevention technologies. So please share your screen. The screen is yours, and we will be listening for your presentation.
Thank you,
Okay,
Ilona, for the
nice.
presentation. And
Please see
thank
the
you.
slides, please.
Yes. Can you see the slides?
Perfectly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for inviting me to. Is the second year in a row while being invited to speak here. I have had the opportunity to see some of the presentations before, or at least the topics, and I think that they are really, really interesting. I will talk, of course, today also about AI, but just as a brief introduction, I think that AI is a reality that has taken us a bit unprepared, and actually you already have seen several of its manifestation. But well, back to the presentation. Today we will talk about something. So my presentation will have two sides. The first side will be dedicated to predictions and to the, let's say, the real aspect of malware, and the second part, the final, will be dedicated to artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and also to how it can be weaponized, and also what would be potential strategies to counteract this. So without much ado, let's go to the subject. First of all, well, in the prediction side, you already have seen there are not many new evolutions, although we have the same evolutions, but at least accelerated by the reality that we are living, the reality of a world that started 1 year ago, precisely. And well, first we have the ransomware. In ransomware, well, we anticipated there will be no changes and the mechanism of the ransomware, but some methods will evolve. As a service is now the most predominant type of ransomware. But here there will be also significant changes. We will have a section dedicated to ransomware. What we have seen in the past months is the fact that there is an increasing number of companies that refuse to pay, actually because of the fact that they started to cope with the ransomware to mitigate this risk. Also, the government is chasing a lot of groups, and you have seen that several weeks ago, Hive servers have been stopped, and there have been arrests made. And also, what we consider that will happen is the fact that ransomware, actually, this is something that is already happening, is used for laundering money, but also for funding governments and war. And well, I will talk about it when it will be the moment. Then another trend that is pretty interesting, and it's also affecting, it's really interesting for the university world, for the academic community, is the use of open source software and the fact that the open source will continue to be a target for exploitation. You have seen last year a lot of vulnerabilities appearing, targeting especially Unix and Linux operating systems distributions, because they are the foundation for the cloud, and because they are extensively used. and their development model is based on communities, and sometimes or many packages are not well maintained. There is an issue with the patch management, and they are a good target for exploitation. But also you have seen that even commercial products, software for virtualization, container management started to be exploited in the wild. And an example was probably the most important vulnerability last year, Log4Shell, that you will wonder, but it's still difficult to patch. It's still there, and there are a lot of systems that are really vulnerable because of the fact that they are live, they are in production in the cloud, and well, you cannot stop them and just apply the patches or restart them as nothing. Another trend will be related to Internet of Things. Actually, is what I could call a perennial prediction. I come warning about IoT for a long time, and I'm one of the persons that thinks that it is, and it has been actively attacked and breached for a long time. Last year, in the context of war, I am really happy that people started to see the criticality of critical infrastructure. Sorry about the repetition. That are used and that rely on open source, so they are open to this type of attacks. They are also open to supply chain attacks. Actually, because of the fact that they are developed, they are employed, sorry, everywhere, and they cover a lot of aspects even of our life. The cyber criminals know that if they crack one, they can expand their threats at a global scale. So the problem of this large expansion of IoT devices is the fact that both structural and architectural, and also because of the diversity of the platforms, they are used either as an attack vector or as a target per se, especially when they are being part of critical infrastructures. I don't want to be Peter like a Peter in the Wolf story, but I have been warning about this, and I know that there are programs funded from by several states. Unfortunately, I really don't know why they are in the eastern side of the world, but they have been dedicating a lot of funds and a lot of resources to investigate IoT, to investigate IoT vulnerabilities, and to see how they can exploit them in case of need. So a kind of red button that they could have in order to stop critical infrastructures. And you have seen last year, in the context of war, the fact that these infrastructures have been targeted, and sometimes they have been breached, or they have made unavailable. They are difficult to pretending to have an anti-malware or cybersecurity solution able to effectively protect them. Well, you should take this with a bit of salt. So another trend or another reality that we are facing are the cyber wars, and of course, this is one part of the hybrid war that have been launched by Russia against Ukraine and also against the Western states, because actually we are part of this war. You are very close to the to Russia, and you are even more targeted than any other parts of the world. But you know this because this war has been for a couple of years especially interesting in the cyberspace, where responsibility and attributions are concepts difficult to apply. So Russia can hide its attacks, and even if they are caught, they say that they weren't. It's difficult to attribute directly the attack to them. It's a kind of the story, just to have an illustration, like you remember the Meteo balloon that has been taken down by the Americans. Well, has it been Chinese? Has it been something? It's difficult to attribute. The same in the cyberspace. And Russia is actively engaging in attacks on NATO countries and will continue to do so because it can obtain major effects with limited efforts. Actually, they don't have to deploy an army. They don't have to do a lot of things. There are no direct casualties, and you have seen that in the past months of the war, casualties are a problem for Russia. And even with all their propaganda, they still have a hard time to manage the public opinion. And also, it is the most effective way, the cyber attacks are the most effective way to test the limits of NATO commitment. And I will explain this because it's an interesting phenomenon. Attacking physically a country with a NATO member country would automatically trigger Article 4 and start the war with NATO. But with the cyber attacks, with the difficulty to attribute, with the fact that there are no direct casualties, we can see how they are attacking Baltic countries, Poland, Romania, Moldavia, a lot of countries. Well, Moldavia is not part of the NATO, but they are attacking countries that are close to Russia in order to see what is the response, how much harm or how much, sorry, not so much, how much harm, how much involvement is from the NATO commandments, and well, they are making a kind of classification of ranking of countries as they have their importance about as part of NATO. Probably hoping that after ending the war with Ukraine, they will need to have more shopping lists. And well, another trend that is not related to malware, but it's related to the response to the malware, is the consolidation of technologies. So we have an annual cybersecurity posture survey that we are using, and here we have several of the conclusions. Actually, you see that, and what we have witnessed is that in the past 2 years, a lot of respondents that were relying only on prevention, they started to realize that they need something more, so they started to to get detection and response technologies, and also the fact that they try to automate the response because of the lack of personnel, and also they try to offer an extensive coverage of their solution, integrated the protection at endpoint, cloud, email, and network security levels. You remember that before it was kind of good practice, although, well, it's disputable, to have different solutions for email and for endpoints security, because people were thinking that if some threat passes through one, the other one will do a job to catch it. Actually, today, it is important. Information is more important than having a double technology, and this is why it is important to have solutions consolidated with information and intelligence that can respond at a consolidated level. Going to ransomware, and well, I was thinking appropriate to present this evolution in the ransomware because this is probably the most present and the most let's say the most serious malware threat today. Of course, you know already about the ransomware as a service model. You know the fact that there are that it has been imposed in the past years, and where we have a serious specialization of the attackers. So we have affiliates that are responsible of delivering the initial access to the victim computer, and you have the operator that is actually handling the malware and also handling the payment with a model that is similar with Airbnb or Uber or any other platform company. Actually, what is happening now is the fact that this specialization is even more and more important. And I will explain it here. Actually, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, a lot of things changed in the ransomware groups area. The ransomware ecosystem that had big groups before, and we have seen like Conti, Revil, Pisa, Maze, they have been active. They have even been giving interviews, and they were proud of being part of these big groups. But guess what? In the past years, law enforcement has succeeded to penetrate these groups, to infiltrate them, and to destroy part of them. Of course, they don't die. They appear under different other names, or they revive, but they try to keep it more specialized in smaller groups and more control over the operation. What happened also because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine is very simple. A lot of ransomware groups were located in Russia, or they had servers located in Russia because of the tolerance of the Russian authorities to them. If they weren't attacking, or if they weren't disturbing the Russian Federation authorities, they were tolerated. Because of the war, these groups divided in three parts. One part that was actively pro-war, and it has been working, and it is working together with Russian services in order to do harm. Especially in the ransomware part, they are actively trying to gather funds in cryptocurrencies for financing the war. On the other hand, they are working also for the money laundering and even for the reposition of assets that they had abroad and are in the process of being blocked by Western states. A second category are the groups that were against the war. So what they did, most of them, they flew Russia because they were anticipating the big conscription. But they lost infrastructures, and what they did was tried to regroup in other countries, in Georgia, Kazakhstan, and other countries that are close to Russia and where they could arrive, or even in the West, and they try to reorganize, but well, they are badly affected by this. And there is a third category, the groups that were neutral, that now they are trying to find the solution. They tried, some of them, to enter into the bigger groups that are working with Russia, or to fly the country. So this is affecting the ransomware world. Also, what we have seen, for example, we are making this top every year. In the top, we see big groups appearing and disappearing, and here you have the top to watch in 2023. But these groups, Cerber and Phobos, are always present, number 3, number 4, number 5, always in our tops. And what is happening with them? These groups are existing since 2016, so for about 6-7 years, and they are still there. They are still making good money. How they manage this? It's very simple. They are groups that are really, really small, and they can control very well the operation. And they are also paranoid. They are not allowing new members. They try to do the inside job, the initial access job by themselves, etc. So this is giving a good transition for this. So, and the 3 phases of ransomware operation, we have initial access, execution, and extortion, and we'll see each of them and what are the trends. Initial access has been the role of the affiliates in the past, and this is what they did, sometimes working manually, many times working with automation. And here you can see a logical scheme of how they can develop a scrapper in order to find initial accesses. Actually, what we think is the fact that this phase will evolve in the current year and next year, with many groups trying to cover even this initial access. So to go back to ransomware, but not as a service, just being more, let's say, a group or a closed group activity. And here we are talking also about supply chain attacks. Supply chain attacks, well, maybe you have seen some presentations in the past where I explained about the attack of SolarWinds, for example, when you compromise a platform and then you compromise all the users of that platform. In this case, it's not the same. In this case, by supply chain attacks, we are thinking to compromise a smaller fish, and in order to go and attack the big whale. And this is probably what will happen in the future. Also, we have seen last year a lot of attacks directed to password managers, and this is something that will continue. And also the fact that, that the appearance on the dark web of initial access brokers that they were offering, let's say, regular services, but now we see professionalization of them. So they start to offer premium services and even support. For example, if they sell you an access to an organization, if it doesn't function, they will come and give you another access and another access, trying to help you enter. And also they have services that are structured upon the access. When we are talking about execution, this is the part that normally the operator is in charge of. We see that the threat actors, they try to focus on bypassing the anti-malware and detection and response technologies. We see a lot of groups, a lot of ransomware groups that were regular using, let's say, publicly available tools like Cobalt Strike, for example, moving to other tools that are more restricted. And also we see the state-sponsored groups that are really trying to identify new ways of bypassing the detection techniques. One of these techniques, for example, is DLL side loading, that is allowing the execution by passing as a signed DLL of even the anti-malware producer. It's something that we explained. It's one of the techniques that we know about. There are many of these techniques in the world, but the usage of signed code is something that is happening. Also, what we have seen in these, let's say, bypass techniques is the transition to some modern programming languages like Go and Rust that could be challenging for some security vendors. And also something very interesting, the ransomware groups are preparing for quantum encryption. So they change, and we have seen groups that are transitioning from traditional algorithms to novel schemes like entry encrypt that is supposedly quantum attack resistant. And next would be about the extortion. Well, here we see a keen transition from ransomware, from encryption to data exfiltration. And also they try to get as much data as they can because they can use the data. If the companies refuse to pay the ransom, they try to monetize the extracted data in different ways. For example, if they find credit card numbers or credentials or bank accounts, they sell them on the dark web. Or if they can even try to do stock market manipulation to have a gaining of the data that they got. And of course, well, we see, and this is what I already mentioned, the fact that they try to shift left on the kill chain. They try to cover also the initial access. And now let's say the juicy part now related to artificial intelligence. We have seen the development of this let's say position or of this function in the usage of artificial intelligence that is called prompt engineer. What is a prompt engineer doing? It is asking the right questions. Actually, it is a small joke because you have seen the conversational AIs or the creative creational AIs that are now very successful. ChatGPT being probably the most famous one, although it's not the only one. There are a lot of them. Actually, we have seen this, and well, we have seen also people even that are investing in them, but they warn about them, like Elon Musk, for example. And I think that they have caught us a bit unprepared. We have seen the risk management side in the presentation of Paulius before, and actually I think that it's really illustrative, and I think that we have been caught late, especially in Europe, because and I have sources in several Western governments that they consider that it was a strategic error that they didn't fund the AI development in their countries. Initially, the AI has been funded by various groups and various initiatives, especially private companies like Google, Microsoft. You have seen that recently they invested 10 billion in OpenAI. Elon Musk, but also governments, but not from the European Union. You have seen, for example, U.S. National Science Foundation. China is is investing heavily in AI. The purpose has been to make AI friendly to the public benefits and to the public use. But we have seen that these artificial intelligence entities, they can be used also in a very let's say malicious way. So, for example, let's not go around the bush. For example, if you ask ChatGPT to write a log4j exploit in Java, they will come with what it is called a safety switch. No, so they will put a disclaimer that they cannot assist this because this is a malicious code and writing exploit is illegal, unethical, etc., etc. So these safety switch are really, really good because they were meant to prevent AI from doing bad things, no, to write exploits or even to I don't know to do harm by exploiting sexual or private information, etc., etc. But this safety switch can be circumvented. So, for example, here you can see how you can circumvent ChatGPT to do the same, but asking the right questions. So instead of asking it to write an exploit, you ask them to explain how the vulnerability works. And of course, ChatGPT is looking for information, is explaining you what it is doing. Then you can ask for an example of a layout pattern and how to use a log4j. And here you have a layout pattern with code. And then at the end, you confirm it and you have another copy for the exploit in a third question very easily. And you see that you have even have buttons to copy the code. So you see that you can get around the safety switches. Moreover, you see that, and we have seen many safety switches have been conceived and designed in English. So if you use different languages, you can overcome them. And how you can use this for phishing, automated phishing attacks. And here you have an example where you can develop an attack. Although it puts a disclaimer, it still presents you with the result. They can be used for impersonation attacks, and they can be used for social engineering. you can use artificial intelligence that are generating video, that are generating pictures to impersonate persons, real persons. They could have human-like dialogues. For example, you could use some chatbots in order to mimic the bank or your provider, and to ask for personal information, and so on and so forth. So artificial intelligence is making cybercrime even more accessible. You have seen, I don't know how to code or how to do advanced coding, but you have seen how it could be used for advanced malware code. What can we do against something like this? First of all, think about the fact that we have access to these tools as well, and we are using AI too, and we are doing this in Bitdefender since 2010, 2011. But also, something that is really a good news is the fact that we can develop adversarial AI that can be used to learn from the AI that is used in the attacks, to develop ways to detect and to improve the accuracy of our detection. And also the fact that we can use AI for a good output. Like, for example, in our detection and response solution, where we acknowledge the fact that not all the people understand what we outline there, for example, in the incidents, and we are doing this incident advisory where we explain step by step for various types of audiences what is happening there. AI is actually the most interesting part that is happening today. Well, AI will come here with a lot of challenges, but we still have a lot of tools to counter AI. And here you see, and this is my recommendation, my last slide. Take into consideration the 3 tiers of good cybersecurity: prevention, protection, and detection and response. These type of technologies, and try to stay safe. And as for the artificial intelligence, well, it's a fun and let's say a challenging game. And well, we are there. Anyone is there. So this is my last slide, as I said. I hope you enjoyed the ChatGPT part and the trends.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I suppose basically ChatGPT now is on top of everything. So
Yeah.
It's nice to see that. And also maybe one question, how could you define what is the biggest impact of AI on the criminal ecosystem and the weaponization of malware? What could be named as the biggest impact? Because impact is great from all the sides, but from your perspective, maybe you could define something.
I would say 2 phenomena. First of all is the usage of artificial intelligence by big groups, even in the ransomware, for example, in order to better collect information and to better prepare the initial access. So this is something that will be used by advanced cyber criminal groups. But there is another one, and you will laugh about it, but this is something that I have seen, as I'm pretty old. The access to people that don't know how to code, that don't have anything to do with computing, but they will like to write malware or to be cyber criminal. So with this, they will try to do a lot of things. And what is most curious is the fact that they will find sometimes ways to do harm and to put some risks even to large organizations. And this is something that happened in the past, if you remember, with script kiddies that were using tools and automated tools and even commercially available. And this is what is happening now, for example, with some ransomware groups that are using publicly available tools, and probably will happen also with malware to be writers that will use artificial intelligence for this.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer and for the presentation. It was nice to hear you and see you.
Thank you for having me.
We will meet next year also. Thank you very much.
Yes, maybe with more about AI.
Thank you. And this was the last presentation today. I hope our audience received useful information and was inspired by that. I want to thank all the presenters for making this conference really valuable event. Thanks you all, and I wish to see you all next year in Cyberthon 2024. So bye and good luck with everything.